Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the starship Victory, watching the stars through the large window. Earth was far behind them now, just a tiny blue dot in the darkness. This was humanity's first ship that could travel faster than light, and Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders. "Captain, we're getting something strange on the sensors," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station. The young officer's voice carried excitement and worry at the same time. Jake walked over to look at the readings. "What kind of strange?" "It's big, sir. Really big. And it's not moving like any ship we know." Ben's fingers danced across his controls. "The computer says it's made of materials we've never seen before." Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her research station. As the ship's expert on alien life, she had been hoping for this moment her whole career. "Captain, are you thinking what I'm thinking?" "First contact," Jake said quietly. The words felt heavy in his mouth. Every person on Earth had dreamed of this day, but now that it was here, Jake felt scared and excited at the same time. Alex Rivera, Jake's second in command, joined them at the front of the bridge. "Should we call Earth?" "Not yet," Jake decided. "Let's see what we're dealing with first." The alien ship was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. It was smooth and white, shaped like a perfect circle that stretched for miles across. No windows, no weapons that they could see, no marks or scratches anywhere. It looked like it had been built by machines, not living beings. "They're sending us a message," Ben announced. "But it's not radio or anything we know. The computer is trying to figure it out." Suddenly, the main screen lit up. A face appeared, but it was not human. The being had pale gray skin, large black eyes, and no nose or mouth that they could see. When it spoke, the words came directly into their minds rather than through their ears. "Greetings, primitive vessel. I am Ambassador Zeph-9 of the Corvani species. We represent the Galactic Confederation. You will prepare for boarding and inspection." The crew looked at each other with wide eyes. Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth ship Victory. We come in peace and would be honored to meet with you." "Peace is an inefficient concept," the alien replied. "We will beam aboard your vessel in 60 seconds. Prepare your senior staff." The screen went dark. Jake turned to his crew. "You heard them. Lisa, Alex, you're with me. Ben, keep monitoring everything. If something goes wrong, get us out of here fast." Lisa grabbed her tablet and a small device from her station. "Captain, I want to try something. If they're as advanced as they seem, maybe we can show them something about human culture." "What did you have in mind?" She held up a small music player. "My grandmother's violin recordings. Music is one of the things that makes us human. Maybe they'll understand us better if they hear it." Alex shook his head. "Lisa, we don't know anything about these beings. What if music offends them somehow?" "Then we'll deal with that," Jake said. "But Lisa's right. If we're going to represent humanity, we should show them who we really are." A bright light filled the bridge, and suddenly 3 alien beings stood before them. They looked exactly like the one on the screen, tall, thin, with gray skin and those large black eyes. They wore simple white clothes that seemed to be made from the same material as their ship. Ambassador Zeph-9 stepped forward. When he moved, it was perfectly smooth, like he was floating rather than walking. "We are here to evaluate your species for possible inclusion in the Confederation. You are clearly primitive, but your rapid technological development is ... interesting. We're honored by your interest," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We have much to learn from advanced civilizations like yours. Learning is the transfer of data from one unit to another," Zeph-9 replied. "We have observed your species for some time. You are chaotic, inefficient, and driven by irrational chemical reactions you call emotions. However, your technology has advanced faster than any species we have recorded." Lisa stepped forward. "Ambassador, we'd like to share something with you that might help you understand humanity better." The 3 aliens looked at her with those huge black eyes. "Proceed." Lisa activated her music player. The soft, beautiful sound of a violin filled the bridge. It was an old song, one that spoke of love and hope and dreams. The melody rose and fell like the human heart, sometimes sad, sometimes joyful, always full of feeling. The aliens stood perfectly still as the music played. Their expressions did not change, but Jake could see something in their eyes. Confusion, maybe even curiosity. When the song ended, there was silence for a long moment. What was the purpose of that sound pattern? Zeph9 asked finally. It's called music, Lisa explained. We create it to express our feelings, our experiences, our dreams. This particular piece is about finding perfect love, about two people who complete each other despite their flaws. You create organized sound vibrations with no practical function. The function is beauty, Lisa said. It makes us feel connected to each other and to something greater than ourselves. The three aliens looked at each other. Jake couldn't tell if they were communicating somehow or just thinking. This is highly inefficient, Zeph9 said at last. In the Confederation, all activities serve a logical purpose. Art, as you call it, was eliminated from our societies long ago as a waste of resources. But doesn't it make you feel anything? Lisa asked. When you heard that music, didn't it touch something inside you? We do not experience what you call feelings. They are chemical reactions that cloud judgment and reduce efficiency. The Confederation has helped all member species overcome such primitive responses. Alex stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, our emotions don't make us weak. They make us strong. They drive us to explore, to create, to protect each other. Without them, we would never have built this ship or reached for the stars. Curious, Zeph9 said. Your species continues to surprise us. We must study you further. You will come with us to the Confederation Council. They will decide if humanity can be corrected and made suitable for membership. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Corrected? Your emotional responses and chaotic thinking patterns can be surgically removed. You will become efficient, logical, perfect like the rest of us. The three humans looked at each other in alarm. This was not the first contact they had dreamed of. We appreciate the offer, Jake said carefully, but we'd like to learn more about the Confederation before making any decisions about changing who we are. That is acceptable. You have 72 hours to prepare for departure to our capital. World, we will return then. The aliens disappeared in the same bright light, leaving the humans alone on their bridge. Lisa sank into a chair. They want to take away everything that makes us human. Maybe, Jake said. But we're not going to let that happen. We'll find a way to show them that our imperfections are what make us perfect. The Corvani homeworld looked like a giant machine. Captain Jake Morrison stared out the window of their transport ship as they descended toward the surface. Everything was perfectly organized. Silver buildings in exact rows, rows that formed perfect squares, not a single tree or flower anywhere. Even the sky seemed too clean, like someone had scrubbed all the clouds away. Dr. Lisa Grant sat beside him, taking notes on her tablet. It's so sterile, she whispered. Where is all the life? Commander Alex Rivera checked his weapon, even though the aliens had assured them it would not be needed. This whole place gives me the creeps. Look at those people down there. Jake looked where Alex was pointing. Thousands of Corvani moved through the streets below, but they all walked at exactly the same speed, in perfectly straight lines. No one stopped to talk. No one looked around. They moved like robots programmed for a single task. Welcome to Coven. Prime, said their escort, a tall alien who called himself Guide 47. You will find our world operates at peak efficiency. Every citizen knows their function and performs it without error. What about children? Lisa asked. Where do they play? Play is an inefficient use of time, Guide 47 replied. Young units are educated in controlled environments until they reach working age. They learn only necessary skills. The transport landed at a massive building that stretched up into the clouds. Everything was the same silver color, with no decorations or anything that might be called beautiful. They were led through long hallways, filled with more Corvani, all moving with that same mechanical precision. Dr. Nina Walsh was waiting for them in what the aliens called a preparation chamber. She had arrived 2 days earlier as part of the advance team. Nina was a human expert on different cultures, and she looked worried. "Jake, we have a problem," she said as soon as they were alone. "I've been studying their society, and it's worse than we thought. They didn't just get rid of emotions. They eliminated everything that makes a species unique." "What do you mean?" Alex asked. Nina pulled out her tablet and showed them her research. "Look at this. The Corvani used to have art, music, even sports. But about 1,000 years ago, they decided all of that was wasteful. They surgically removed the parts of their brains that create and appreciate beauty." Lisa looked sick. "They cut out their creativity?" "That's not the worst part," Nina continued. "Every species in the Confederation has done the same thing. The Zeltans used to be individuals, but they turned themselves into a hive mind. The Axioms removed all unpredictability from their thinking. They've all chosen perfection over personality." Lieutenant Ben Carter joined them, looking excited despite the grim news. "But I've discovered something interesting. Their technology hasn't advanced in over 500 years. All their ships, all their buildings, everything uses the same old designs." "That makes sense," Jake said. "If you eliminate creativity, you can't innovate anymore." A soft chime sounded, and Guide 47 appeared in the doorway. "It is time for your presentation to the Council. You will demonstrate why humanity should be admitted to the Confederation." They were led to an enormous chamber filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. At the center sat Council Prime Zen 12, the leader of the Confederation. Like all the others, he had no expression on his face as he watched the humans enter. "Species designation: human," Zen 12 announced in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "You have been brought here for evaluation. Your rapid technological development suggests potential, but your chaotic nature presents concerns." Jake stepped forward. "Honored Council, humanity is grateful for this opportunity. We believe we can contribute much to the Confederation." "Contribution requires conformity," replied a delegate from the Zeltan Collective. When they spoke, it was like hearing 100 voices at once. "Your individual thinking patterns create inefficiency. You waste resources on unnecessary activities." "Like your music," added an Axiom representative. Their voice was flat and mechanical. "We analyzed the sound patterns you play for Ambassador. Zeph9. They serve no logical purpose." Lisa moved to stand beside Jake. "That music wasn't meant to serve a logical purpose. It was meant to touch the heart, to make us feel connected to something beautiful." "Hearts are organs that pump blood," the Axiom said. "They cannot be touched by vibrations in the air." Several human delegates laughed at this, but the sound seemed to disturb the aliens. They looked at each other with what might have been confusion. "You see," Zen 12 said, "they cannot control their emotional responses. This laughing behavior serves no function, yet they do it automatically." Dr. Walsh stepped forward. "Council Prime, may I ask a question? When was the last time any confederation species made a major breakthrough in science or technology?" "Irrelevant," Zen 12 replied, but Jake noticed a slight pause before he answered. "I think it's very relevant," Nina continued. "Your societies are perfect, efficient, logical, but they're also stagnant. You haven't grown or changed in centuries. Change is unnecessary when perfection has been achieved," said the Zeltan Collective. Ben Carter couldn't stay quiet anymore. "But that's exactly the problem. You've become so perfect that you can't adapt or improve. Look at your ships, the same design for 500 years. Your cities, all identical. Your people, all exactly the same. Uniformity creates stability," Zen 12 stated. "Maybe," Jake said, "but it also creates stagnation. Humanity has advanced so quickly because we embrace chaos, because we're not afraid to be different, to make mistakes, to try new things. Mistakes are inefficient, the Axiom representative said. Mistakes are how we learn, Alex replied. Every failure teaches us something new. Every crazy idea might be the breakthrough that changes everything. The council chamber fell silent. Jake could see the aliens processing this information, but their faces showed no emotion, no understanding. Finally, Zen 12 spoke. Humanity will undergo the correction process. Your chaotic thinking will be replaced with logical patterns. Your emotional responses will be eliminated. Your individual creativity will be ... adjusted. And if we refuse, Jake asked, refusal is not permitted. All species must be corrected before joining the Confederation. This is for your own benefit. Lisa looked around the chamber at all the perfect, emotionless faces. You're not offering us membership. You're offering us extinction. You want to kill everything that makes us human. We want to make you better, Zeph9 said from his position behind the council. Perfect, like us. Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. We need time to discuss this with our people on Earth. You have until tomorrow, Zen 12 announced. The correction process will begin whether you agree or not. Resistance will only cause unnecessary suffering. As they were escorted back to their quarters, Nina grabbed Jake's arm. There's something else I discovered, she whispered. Some of the younger aliens have been asking me about human emotions. They're curious about what they're missing. What do you mean? I think the corrections aren't as complete as they believe. Deep down, some part of them remembers what it was like to feel, to create, to be truly alive. They built a perfect prison, but some of them are starting to realize they won out. Jake looked back at the council chamber as the doors closed. Behind them. Tomorrow, the Confederation would try to make humanity perfect. But maybe, just maybe, humanity could teach them that imperfection was actually the most beautiful thing of all. We're not going to let them change us, he said quietly. Somehow, we're going to show them that our flaws are what make us strong. The question was, how do you convince someone that perfection is the enemy of progress? How do you teach feeling to those who have forgotten how to feel? Jake didn't know the answer yet, but he was determined to find it. Engineer Maya Thompson crawled under the broken machine, her hands already dirty with oil and strange alien fluids. The Corvani engineers stood around her in a perfect circle, watching her work with their emotionless faces. They had been trying to fix this power generator for 3 days using their careful, methodical approach. Maya had been working on it for 20 minutes. This makes no sense, muttered Technician 891, one of the Corvani. She is not following the proper repair sequence. She is not using the correct tools. She is not even reading the manual. Maya poked her head out from under the machine. Sometimes the manual is wrong, she said, wiping grease from her forehead. You have to feel what the machine is telling you. Machines do not communicate, said Technician 891. They are mechanical devices that follow program functions. Maybe that's your problem, Maya replied, diving back under the generator. You treat everything like it's supposed to be perfect, but nothing really is. This machine has been running for what, 200 years? It's tired. It's developed its own personality. The Corvani looked at each other with confusion. Captain Jake Morrison watched from across the room, trying not to smile. For the past week, human engineers have been working alongside Confederation technicians on various projects. The results have been surprising to everyone. Suddenly, the power generator hummed to life. Lights flickered on throughout the facility. The Corvani stared at the machine, then at Maya, then at each other. How did you do that? Technician 891 asked. Maya emerged from under the generator, holding a twisted piece of metal. The intake valve was clogged, but not where your diagnostics said it would be. It had shifted over time, creating a new blockage pattern. Your computers were looking for the perfect problem, but this was an imperfect one. But how did you know? Where to look? Maya shrugged. I listened to the machine. It was making a weird humming sound, like it was trying to tell me something. So I followed my gut instead of the manual. Technician 891 stared at her. You followed your gut? It's hard to explain, Maya said. It's like an instinct. A feeling that tells you what to try next, even when logic says it won't work. Across the space station, similar scenes were playing out. Diplomat Zara Kim sat in a meeting room with representatives from 6 different Confederation species. They had been trying to resolve a trade dispute for months using their standard negotiation protocols. Nothing had worked. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong, Zara suggested. Instead of trying to find the perfect solution, what if we look for one that everyone can live with, even if it's not ideal? Compromise creates inefficiency, said the Axiom delegate. The optimal solution must be calculated and implemented. But what if there is no optimal solution? Zara asked. What if the best answer is one that makes everyone a little unhappy but still works? The aliens looked puzzled. Their programming told them to seek perfection, but their current situation proved that perfection might not always be possible. Meanwhile, Captain Steve Hughes was leading a joint exploration team to investigate strange energy readings from a nearby system. The team included humans and aliens working together, though the cooperation was awkward. The energy signatures are chaotic, reported Science Officer Vel 23 of the Zelthans. Our models cannot predict their behavior. That's because you're trying to force them into a pattern, said Dr. Tony Russell, the human physicist on the team. Some things in the universe are naturally chaotic. You can't predict them. You have to adapt to them. Adaptation is inefficient, Vel 23 replied. Proper analysis should allow for complete prediction. As their ship approached the energy source, it became clear that it was something none of them had seen before. Swirling clouds of energy danced around a small asteroid, creating beautiful patterns that changed every few seconds. It's like a cosmic light show, whispered Lieutenant Sarah Blake, the human pilot. It serves no function, said the Axiom scanner operator. It is merely random energy discharge. Maybe that's exactly what makes it beautiful, Sarah replied. It's not trying to serve a function. It's just ... being itself. The aliens didn't understand, but Jake noticed something interesting. They kept looking at the energy display, even when they weren't supposed to be monitoring it. Something about the chaotic beauty was capturing their attention. Back on the space station, Maya was working on another project when she noticed she was being watched. A young Corvani technician named Kex-14 had been following her around for days, observing her unconventional methods. Is there something you want to ask me? Maya said without looking up from her work. Yes, Kex-14 said quietly. When you fixed the generator, you said you felt what the machine was telling you. I do not understand this concept. Maya stopped working and looked at him. Have you ever had a moment when you knew something was wrong, even though all your tests said everything was fine? Kex-14 was quiet for a long moment. Yes, he said finally. Sometimes I sense problems before they appear in the diagnostics, but I was taught to ignore these irregularities. Those aren't irregularities, Maya said. That's intuition. It's your brain picking up on tiny details that your conscious mind hasn't noticed yet. But intuition is not logical. No, it's not. But it's often right. Maya picked up a wrench and handed it to him. Want to try something? Help me with this cooling system. Don't think about the manual. Just listen to what the machine is telling. Kex-14 took the wrench with trembling hands. For the first time in his life, he was going to ignore his programming and trust something he couldn't explain. Dr. Lisa Grant was having her own breakthrough in the medical facility. She had been working with Confederation doctors to treat a group of patients with a mysterious illness. The alien doctors had run every test, tried every treatment, but nothing worked. The symptoms don't match any known disease pattern, said Ehlers S67. Our analysis is complete, but we cannot identify the cause. Lisa studied the patients, not just their test results, but their faces, their posture, their behavior. Something about them reminded her of people she had known back on Earth, people who had been depressed, lonely, cut off from others. What if it's not a physical disease? She suggested. What if it's emotional? Emotions cannot cause physical symptoms, Zev67 replied. Actually, they can, Lisa said. On Earth, we've learned that the mind and body are connected. Sadness, stress, loneliness, they can make people physically sick. She approached one of the patients, a young Corvani who looked particularly listless. Can you tell me how you feel? The patient looked confused. I do not understand the question. When you wake up in the morning, do you want to get out of bed? Do you look forward to your work? Do you feel happy? The patient's large eyes grew even wider. I do not know what happy means. But lately, I have been thinking about colors and wondering what it would be like to sing. Lisa felt her heart race. You've been having feelings, emotions that your society tried to eliminate. Is that what this is? The patient asked. These strange thoughts and sensations? I think so. And I think there are others like you. Across the Confederation, similar awakenings were happening. Beings who had been programmed for perfection were starting to feel the stirrings of something they had never experienced, the messy, chaotic, beautiful experience of being truly alive. But change was dangerous. The Confederation had built their entire civilization on the elimination of chaos. If their citizens started feeling emotions, having individual thoughts, making imperfect choices, what would happen to their perfect order? Some Confederation leaders were beginning to worry that the humans were not just refusing to be corrected, they were infecting others with their imperfection. An infection they knew could spread. The question was, would they try to stop it? Or would they discover that some infections were actually cures? The alarms were screaming across every ship in the Confederation fleet. Admiral Kate Foster stood on the bridge of the human vessel Liberty, watching the massive tier in space grow larger by the hour. The anomaly stretched across 3 star systems, twisting reality itself into impossible shapes. Report, she called to her science officer. Dr. Tony Russell looked up from his instruments, his face pale. It's getting worse, Admiral. The space-time distortion is expanding at an exponential rate. If we can't stop it, it'll consume 12 inhabited worlds within 48 hours. Through the communication system, they could hear the panic in the voices of Confederation commanders. Fleet Admiral Hex Prime of the Corvani was trying to coordinate the response, but his perfect logical approach was failing. All vessels will maintain formation pattern 7, Hex Prime ordered. Deploy graviton containment fields according to Protocol 94. Execute with precision. Commander Sam Brooks, the human tactical specialist, shook his head as he watched the alien ships move into their perfect formations. They're treating this like a standard operation, he muttered. But there's nothing standard about that thing. The anomaly pulsed with chaotic energy, sending waves of distortion through space. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like a cosmic storm made of light and darkness. Every time the Confederation ships tried to contain it with their calculated approach, it shifted and grew stronger. Admiral, came the voice of Captain Jake Morrison over the communication channel. The Confederation fleet has been trying the same tactics for 6 hours. It's not working. Kate nodded grimly. I can see that. Their containment fields are having no effect. That's because they're trying to impose order on something that thrives on chaos, said Dr. Tony Russell. This anomaly isn't following any rules we know. It's completely unpredictable. On the Corvani command ship, Hex Prime was becoming increasingly frustrated, though his face showed no emotion. His tactical computer had run through every possible scenario, every known method of space-time manipulation. Nothing worked. Analysis complete, reported his science officer. The anomaly exhibits no recognizable patterns. Current containment protocols are ineffective. Then we will develop new protocols, Hex Prime stated. Increase computational power. Run extended simulations. But even as he spoke, more alarms sounded. The anomaly had just consumed an entire asteroid belt. Growing even larger and more chaotic. Council Prime Zen 12 appeared on the communication screen, his usual calm demeanor showing the first cracks of uncertainty. Fleet Admiral, your progress report. All standard procedures have failed, X-Prime admitted. We require additional time to develop new containment strategies. Time we do not have, Zen 12 replied. Evacuation of threatened worlds has begun, but our ships cannot move fast enough. 12 billion beings will die if this anomaly is not stopped. Captain Jake Morrison's voice cut through the channel. Council Prime, request permission to try a different approach. Human vessel, you will. Maintain position and observe. Hex Prime ordered. This crisis requires precise coordination, not chaotic human methods. But Admiral Kate Foster had heard enough. She opened a direct channel to the human ships in the fleet. All human vessels, this is Admiral Foster. We're going to do this hour. Wait, Tony, what do you need? Dr. Tony Russell was already working at his station. The anomaly feeds on energy, but it's picky about what kind. It seems to absorb ordered energy, like our containment fields, but I think it might react differently to chaotic input. What kind of chaotic input? Kate asked. Random energy bursts. Unpredictable patterns. Instead of trying to contain it, we hit it with the most chaotic energy signatures we can create. Commander Sam Brooks understood immediately. You want to fight chaos with chaos. Exactly, but it's dangerous. We'll have to improvise, make decisions on the fly, trust our instincts. Instead of our computers, the Confederation fleet watched in horror as the human ships broke formation and began moving toward the anomaly in what appeared to be a completely random pattern. Their energy weapons fired in bursts that followed no logical sequence. Human vessels, return to formation immediately, Hex Prime ordered. Your actions are endangering the entire fleet. With respect, Fleet Admiral, Kate replied. Your perfect formations aren't working. Sometimes you have to try something crazy. The human ship Courage, commanded by Captain Grace Martinez, was the first to reach the anomaly's edge. Beginning random energy bombardment, she reported. Pattern ... Well, there is no pattern. We're just making it up as we go. The ship's weapons fired in wild, unpredictable bursts. Instead of the steady, calculated beams the Confederation used, the humans created chaos, random frequencies, irregular timing, energy patterns that made no logical sense. And something incredible happened. The anomaly began to shrink. It's working. Dr. Tony Russell shouted. The chaotic energy is destabilizing the anomaly's structure, but the effect was temporary. As soon as the humans stopped firing, the anomaly began growing again, even faster. Than before, we need more ships, Kate realized. More chaos. But it has to be completely random, no coordination at all. Admiral, came the worried voice of Captain Steve Hughes from the exploration vessel Pioneer. If we all fire randomly at the same time, we might hit each other. I know, Kate said quietly. That's the risk we take. Sometimes you have to trust that everything will work out even when logic says it won't. Council Prime Zen 12's voice crackled over the communication system. Admiral Foster, explain your strategy. There's no strategy, Kate admitted. That's the point. This anomaly exists because of chaos, so we have to fight it with our own chaos. But not organized chaos, real chaos. The kind where nobody knows what's going to happen next. That is impossible, X Prime stated. Military operations require coordination and planning. Not this one, Kate replied. She opened a channel to all ships in the fleet, human and alien alike. All vessels. This is Admiral Foster. We're going to save those 12 billion people, but we're going to do it the human way. I'm asking every ship to fire at the anomaly. Using random patterns. Don't coordinate with anyone. Don't follow any plan. Just trust your instincts and do whatever feels right. Silence filled the communication channels. The alien commanders were trained for precision, for following orders, for perfect execution of calculated plans. What Kate was asking went against everything they had been programmed to believe. Then, unexpectedly, a voice spoke up. It was Kex 14, the young Corvani technician who had been working with Maya Thompson. "Permission to try the human approach, Fleet Admiral." "Denied," Hex Prime replied immediately, but other voices began joining in. Confederation crew members who had been working with humans, who had started to experience emotions and intuition for the first time in their lives. "I volunteer for random pattern engagement," said Healer Zest 67. "My ship will participate in chaotic bombardment," added Science Officer Vel 23. Hex Prime looked around his bridge in shock. His crew was volunteering for a mission that made no logical sense, based on nothing but trust in human instincts. The anomaly pulsed again, growing larger. Time was running out. "Fleet Admiral," Kate said quietly, "sometimes the only logical choice is to do something completely illogical. Your perfect order can't solve this problem, but maybe our imperfect chaos can." Hex Prime stared at the reading showing 12 billion lives at stake. Everything he had been taught said that chaos was the enemy of order, that random actions led to disaster. But his perfect order was failing. "All ships," he said finally, his voice barely steady, "prepare for random engagement patterns." For the first time in Confederation history, an entire fleet was about to abandon logic and trust in the beautiful chaos of imperfection. The anomaly collapsed in a brilliant flash of light, leaving only empty space where the massive tier had been. Across the fleet, alarms finally stopped screaming. 12 billion lives had been saved, not through perfect planning, but through beautiful chaos. Admiral Kate Foster watched the readings on her screen with relief and amazement. "All ships report in? Did we get it?" "Anomaly completely dissolved," reported Dr. Tony Russell, his voice filled with wonder. "The random energy patterns disrupted its structure completely. It's gone." On the Corvani command ship, Fleet Admiral Hex Prime stared at his instruments in silence. His logical mind was struggling to process what had happened. Everything he had been taught said that random actions should have led to disaster. Instead, they had achieved the impossible. "Fleet Admiral," his science officer said quietly, "the human method worked. Chaos succeeded where order failed." Hex Prime said nothing, but inside his perfectly controlled mind, something was changing. 3 months later, the effects of that day were rippling across the Confederation like waves in a pond. Ambassador Claire Davis walked through the streets of New Corvin, a city that looked nothing like the sterile perfection of the old Corvani homeworld. Buildings now had different colors. Some were blue, others green or yellow. Gardens had appeared between the structures with flowers that served no function except to be beautiful. And the Corvani themselves, they were different too. Ambassador Davis called a familiar voice. It was Kex 14, the young technician who had volunteered for the chaotic mission. But he looked nothing like the emotionless being she had first met. His face showed expression, curiosity, excitement, something that might even be joy. "Hello, Kex," Claire said, smiling. "How are you feeling today?" "Feeling," Kex repeated the word like it was magical. "I am feeling. Happy? Is that the correct word? Today I learned to paint pictures, and it made me experience sensations I cannot describe." Claire looked at the canvas in his hands. It was a swirl of colors with no logical pattern, no perfect symmetry. It was chaotic and beautiful and completely unique. "It's wonderful," she said, and meant it. "My supervisor says painting wastes time that could be used for productive work," Kex continued. "But when I paint, I feel alive. Is this what humans call happiness?" "I think it is," Claire replied. "And your supervisor is wrong. Art isn't waste time. It's what makes life worth living." But not everyone agreed. Across the city, protests were happening. Groups of Corvani who still believed in the old ways marched through the streets, carrying signs that read, "Order must be maintained and emotions are weakness." Dr. Luke Anderson, the human psychologist, was working with Confederation citizens who were struggling with their newfound emotions. His office was always full these days. "I do not understand these sensations," said his current patient, a Zelfin who had broken away from the collective consciousness. "Sometimes I feel light and energetic. Other times I feel heavy and sad. Why do these changes happen?" "Because you're learning to be an individual," Luke explained gently. "Emotions aren't constant. They change based on what happens to you, what you think about, what you experience. That's normal." "Normal," the Zelton repeated. "But the collective taught us that consistency was perfection. These changing feelings seem wrong." "They're not wrong," Luke assured him. "They're human. Well, not just human anymore. They're what every thinking being experiences when they're truly alive." But the changes weren't happening everywhere. Captain Grace Martinez stood in the council chambers, facing angry representatives from several Confederation worlds. "This infection must be stopped," declared High Commander Vex Prime of the Axioms. "Emotional outbreaks are spreading across our territories. Citizens are abandoning their assigned functions. Order is collapsing. Maybe order needs to collapse," Grace replied calmly. "Maybe your perfect system was keeping your people from being who they really are." "We are what we choose to be," Vex Prime stated. "We chose perfection over chaos." "Did you?" Grace asked. "Or did you choose fear over growth, safety over discovery, control over freedom?" Council Prime Zen 12 watched the debate with his usual emotionless expression, but those who knew him well could see tiny signs of change. His hands moved slightly when he spoke now. His eyes looked around the room instead of staring straight ahead. "The question before us," Zen 12 said slowly, "is whether these changes represent progress or decay. Some worlds report increased creativity and innovation. Others report decreased efficiency and social unrest." "Change is always messy," said Dr. Nina Walsh, who had been studying the Cultural Revolution sweeping the Confederation. "When people start thinking for themselves, they don't all think the same way. That creates conflict, but it also creates growth." "Conflict is inefficient," Vex Prime insisted. "So is stagnation," Nina replied. "Your civilization hasn't advanced in 500 years because you eliminated the very thing that drives progress. The willingness to try new things, to take risks, to be imperfect." On the Zelton homeworld, something unprecedented was happening. For the first time in 1,000 years, individuals were separating from the collective consciousness. They called themselves the Awakened, and their leader was a former collective member who now went by the name Solo One. "We do not reject our brothers and sisters in the collective," Solo One explained to Captain Steve Hughes during a diplomatic visit, "but we choose to experience existence as individuals. We want to have our own thoughts, our own dreams, our own mistakes." "How does the collective feel about that?" Steve asked. "They are confused. They say we have become infected with human chaos, but we say we have been cured of collective blindness. The revolution was spreading, but so was the resistance." On some worlds, authorities were cracking down on emotional expression. Citizens caught painting, singing, or engaging in other inefficient activities were being arrested. Some were even forced to undergo corrective surgery to remove the parts of their brains that had started working again. But for every act of suppression, there were 2 acts of rebellion. Aliens were gathering in secret to share art, music, and stories. They were learning to laugh, to cry, to love. They were discovering that imperfection was not a flaw to be fixed, but a gift to be celebrated. Dr. Lisa Grant received a message that made her heart race with excitement. It was from Healer Zest 67, the Corvani doctor who had started working with human medical techniques. "Dr. Grant," the message read, "I have wonderful news. Today, for the first time in recorded Corvani history, a couple has requested to raise their offspring together as a family unit. They want to teach their child about emotions, about creativity, about love. They say they learned these concepts from humans, but I think they always existed inside us. We just forgot how to access them." The message continued. "There are others like them. Corvani, who are forming emotional bonds, Zeltans, who are choosing individual paths, Axioms, who are making irrational decisions based on what they call feelings. We are becoming like you, Dr. Grant. We are becoming imperfect. And for the first time in 1,000 years, we are growing. Lisa wiped tears from her eyes as she read. The Confederation was changing, one heart at a time. But she knew the hardest battles were still ahead. Not everyone wanted to be awakened. Some would fight to preserve their perfect, empty existence. The question was, would there be enough awakened souls to tip the balance toward a more beautiful, chaotic, imperfect future? Only time would tell. But for the first time since arriving in Confederation space, Lisa felt truly hopeful. The galaxy was learning to feel, and nothing would ever be the same. 5 years had passed since the Great Awakening began, and the galaxy looked completely different. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the new Confederation Capital Station, watching ships from dozens of worlds arrive for the grand celebration. Each vessel was unique now, painted in different colors, designed with artistic flair that would have been unthinkable in the old days. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Instead of the sterile silver that once marked all Confederation buildings, this structure bloomed with color and creativity. Corvani architects had worked with human designers. Zeltan artists had collaborated with Axiom engineers, and the result was something none of them could have created alone. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" said Dr. Lisa Grant, joining Jake at the window. She looked older now, with gray streaks in her hair, but her eyes sparkled with joy. "I never imagined anything like this when we first met Ambassador Zeph9," Jake replied. "Remember how sterile and perfect everything was?" "Perfect," Lisa repeated with a smile. "We've learned a lot about that word, haven't we?" Through the station's corridors, beings from across the galaxy moved with purpose and emotion. A group of young Corvani ran past, laughing as they played some kind of game. An elderly Zeltan sat in a corner, painting a portrait of his grandchildren. Something that would have been impossible when his species was part of a collective mind. President Hannah Scott of Earth was preparing for the evening ceremony in her temporary office. As humanity's representative to the new Confederation Council, she had watched the galaxy transform from rigid perfection to beautiful chaos. But the journey hadn't been easy. "Madam President," said her aide, Admiral Jack Palmer, "the reports from the outer sectors are ready for your review." Hannah looked at the data with mixed feelings. 3 worlds had chosen to leave the Confederation entirely, unable to accept the emotional awakening of their citizens. Several others were still struggling with civil unrest as old guard traditionalists fought against the new ways. "Any word from the Axiom resistance movement?" she asked. "They've established a colony on the edge of the galaxy," Jack reported. "They call it Perfect Haven. No emotions, no art, no chaos allowed. They say they're preserving the true Confederation values." Hannah sighed. "We can't force them to change. Freedom includes the freedom to choose your own path, even if we think it's the wrong one." "Still," Jack said, 90% of Confederation worlds have embraced a new way. That's better than we dared hope." In the station's main hall, Dr. Amy Chen was putting the finishing touches on the evening centerpiece, a massive collaborative art installation that would serve as the highlight of the celebration. Beings from every member world had contributed something to the project. Dr. Chun called out Solo One, the former Zeltan Collective member. "My people have finished their section." Amy looked at the swirling patterns of light and sound that the individual Zeltans had created. It was nothing like the perfect geometric shapes their collective mind used to produce. This was organic, emotional, alive. "It's perfect," she said, then caught herself and laughed. "I mean, it's perfectly imperfect." Solo One smiled, an expression that would have been impossible for a collective member. "That is the most beautiful kind of perfect, is it not?" Across the station, similar preparations were taking place. A choir of Corvani was practicing songs that celebrated individual expression. Axiom engineers were demonstrating machines that produced art instead of just functional items. Human children played with alien youngsters, teaching them games that had no purpose except fun. But the most significant change was in the council chambers themselves. Where once a single leader had made decisions for everyone, now representatives from each world debated, argued, and eventually found solutions that worked for all. Council Prime Zen 12, who now went by the name Zenon, had learned to smile, called the evening session to order. We gather tonight to celebrate not our perfection, but our willingness to be imperfect together. The assembled representatives cheered. It was a sound that would have horrified the old Confederation leadership. But now it filled the chamber with warmth and life. 5 years ago, Zen continued, we met a species that taught us something we have forgotten. They showed us that our flaws are not weaknesses to be eliminated, but strengths to be celebrated. Tonight, we honor that lesson with the first galactic Symphony of Imperfection. The ceremony began as the lights dimmed and the collaborative art installation came to life. Music filled the air, not the precise mathematical compositions of the old days, but something wild and beautiful and real. Corvani violins played alongside Zelton wind instruments and human voices. The melody was sometimes discordant, sometimes perfectly harmonious, always emotional. As the music played, holographic displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. Axiom children learning to laugh, Zelton individuals falling in love, Corvani families teaching their offspring to paint. Humans and aliens working together, creating things that neither could have imagined alone. Maya Thompson, now the chief, engineer of the new Confederation, watched from the engineering section as systems she had designed with alien partners powered the celebration. Nothing worked perfectly. There were small glitches, minor imperfections, tiny chaos in every system. But somehow, it all worked together beautifully. Status report, she called to her mixed crew of humans and aliens. All systems operating at 97% efficiency, reported Kex, her former Corvani colleague who now served as her deputy. Should we correct the irregularities? No, Maya said with a grin. Let them be. A little chaos keeps things interesting. As the symphony reached its climax, every being in the station and millions watching across the galaxy participated. In their own way. Some sang, some danced, some simply listened with tears in their eyes. The music had no perfect structure, no logical progression, no efficient purpose. It was simply beautiful. When the last note faded, the silence was filled with something the old Confederation had never known, the sound of beings who were truly alive, truly feeling, truly free. Ambassador Zeth9, now calling himself Zeth and serving as the Corvani cultural minister, approached the human delegation with something he had never possessed before, gratitude. Thank you, he said simply to Captain Jake Morrison. You gave us the greatest gift possible. You taught us that perfect is not about being flawless. Perfect is about being authentic, about being ourselves, about accepting our beautiful imperfections. Jake shook his hand, another impossibility in the old days. We didn't teach you anything you didn't already know. We just helped you remember. Dr. Lisa Grant looked around at the celebration, at the joy and chaos and beautiful mess of life that now filled the galaxy. You know what I realize, she said to her colleagues. We came here thinking we might lose our humanity to become perfect like them. Instead, we helped them find their humanity. And in the process, added Dr. Nina Walsh, we discovered that humanity isn't about being human. It's about being real, being flawed, being willing to grow and change and make mistakes. As the celebration continued into the night, children of a dozen species played together in the corridors. Artists from different worlds shared techniques and inspiration. Engineers solved problems through intuition as much as logic. Love stories began between beings who had once thought emotions were weaknesses. The galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all, that perfection was not about eliminating flaws, but about embracing them. That true harmony came not from everyone being the same, but from different imperfections working together to create something beautiful. In the end, they had all become perfectly imperfect. And that, everyone agreed, was the most beautiful kind of perfect there was.